What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Convos podcast. I'm Brock Bierman alongside with the entire crew for the first time in a while. We got Hunter Rose, Chase Winterbore, and Dawson Livingston. How we feeling, boys? How did you guys celebrate the 4th? Was it a good 4th for you guys at all?
I worked.
Same.
Yeah.
Chase?
Well, I watched Inside Out too.
Inside Out too? Oh, gosh. You getting deep in here.
Great movie. I honestly about cried, so I recommend watching it.
Well, I might have to add that to my list. Good Lord. Inside Out 2. Did not know if I was going to ever hear that here on the Hardwood Combos podcast, but it's been a while since we've all been on the podcast, let alone had a podcast in general here. A quick reminder that you can follow us anywhere on social media at 515 Podcast. We are a couple followers away from hitting 100 on Facebook, which will allow us to be able to stream again on Facebook. Facebook changed their rules, and so we cannot stream unless we have 100 followers. I think we're at 96 currently, so 4 away from getting back to being able to stream on Facebook. So right now we're live on YouTube and Twitter. You can find us on Instagram as well and Facebook, or wherever you find podcasts on SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. But it's been a while. I think the last episode was just Hunter and myself recapping games 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals. The Mavericks took one of those, and ultimately the Celtics ended up winning the NBA Finals in the gentleman's sweep. Pretty much, not necessarily. Yeah, it was pretty much one-sided. I don't know if we want to open it up to discussion on what your guys' thoughts on both the Mavericks run to the finals, Mavericks performance in the finals, as well as the overall Celtic season as a whole. Because if you look at the numbers, the Celtics did have one of the more dominant seasons in NBA history and runs in the NBA playoffs. But, a lot of people, and we've had these conversations about you can put an asterisk on any type of NBA finals run. I know Chase is one of those fans that knows that people love putting asterisks on championships. But I guess I'll open it up for discussion. If we can go, do we want to go Mavericks side first, or do we want to go Boston side first? And when we recap this finals run,
I say let's go Boston, and maybe we can dive into Mavericks offseason a little bit after.
Perfect. Yeah, Chase, do you want to lead us off with a little bit of Celtics discussion?
So I was not wanting to hear that. Don't ever say that again, man. No, yeah. God, I hate you so much. Yeah, that was freaking dominant though, to say the least. I mean, it was really no question at all that the Celtics should have usually won that, and they did. I just feel like I don't know. This is like I always talk about college basketball, but literally what I look for is a balanced team, depth at every position, and that is exactly what the Celtics had. And I even they had some injuries too, like Tingus. Obviously he was going through a lot, and it still didn't even really matter. I felt like it just seemed like every single position the Celtics were loaded at. Credit to Brad Stevens, heck of a job there. I know Brock didn't always like him as a coach, but he is one heck of a GM. Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to say. Just it was freaking impressive. So I don't know. That's about all I got.
Whoop whoop! The Celtics won the title. All jokes aside, honestly, games 1 and 2 could have went either way. Maybe if Dallas picks one of those up, we're looking at a different series. But got to give credit where credit's due. Boston handled them in games 3. They clutched it out, and in game 5 wasn't even really a competitive ball game. Yeah, like Chase said, Boston was the best team all year. They had the deepest team all year. They had the most star power all year. I know myself and Hunter, we picked the Mavs. I don't remember what Chase's pick was, and obviously Brock picked Boston, but
I think
a little disappointed the way my Mavs performed. But that's what next year's for, and they've already made some great additions in the offseason.
So real quick, I think Chase was the closest to he was exactly right. He actually did pick the Celtics in 5. So credit to Chase for predicting the NBA Finals series correctly in games.
Zero credit. I can't believe you.
Yeah, sorry, Hunter.
No. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you can throw an asterisk on there if you want. I definitely will to push some nasty agendas come 10 years from now. But at the end of the day, they played better basketball. Their dominance overall just shows that they were overall the better team, regardless of whatever opponent was in their way. I would not make this argument, but it definitely would be one I would have to reluctantly probably agree with. But you probably put just about any opponent in front of them besides the 2021 Magic, and they'd probably end up winning. Just because they couldn't beat the Magic for whatever reason, either that season or the season after. But yeah, I think classic. I think the biggest thing from it. So overall, like there's probably a point that gets brought up a few times. Just the past couple months now between the finals ending and then the draft and a little bit of now the free agency signings. Overall, the NBA has been kind of quiet and just like, like this happened and that's cool, I guess, and then that happened and that's neat. Unfortunately, besides I'm sure the city of Boston and Boston fans, most of the world has now already moved forward. Unfortunate, or very fortunate, depending on who you cheer for. But yeah, I think the number one question just afterwards was just who deserved Finals MVP at the end of the day, just because of how well built the team was and how everyone contributed at a pretty high level overall. Maybe not the highest level per other final MVPs, just because they quote unquote maybe carried their team more or just less balanced star power. But that's definitely going to be the question about the biggest question, at least from this finals, is just who should have won Finals MVP. But
yeah, I was gonna open that up. What did you guys think about the Finals MVP decision on giving it to Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum? Honestly, if Porzingis was probably healthy the whole finals run, just how he played game one and how dominant he was and kind of an overall mismatch for the Mavericks, he probably could have won Finals MVP. I know there was conversations about Drew Holiday at one point. Do you think Jaylen Brown was the right pick in your guys' opinions? I don't really care personally as a Celtics fan. Obviously, for me, I'm on the mindset of I just wanted to win the finals. I didn't care who got Finals MVP or whatever. But at the same time, I will say Jason Tatum did play pretty good. I won't say that he played amazing, but he didn't play terrible either. Game 5, he played really well. I think Hunter, if I remember right, I said if he got close to a 25-point triple-double that he would win Finals MVP in our last episode. He got close, didn't get all the way in Game 5, but he did lead the Celtics, I think, in pretty much every major statistical category. But Jaylen Brown, I felt like hit bigger shots and bigger moments. I think of a little step back jumper that he hit in Game 3 in Dallas, which was huge in the final moments of that game. But what do you guys think of the Finals MVP decision? And do you really think it does anything to either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum's overall legacy at this point?
Well, I know Hunter has a pretty good stat, if we're on the same page right now, about Jaylen Brown's final MVP. So I'm going to let him lead off, unless, Dawson, you got something.
No.
Okay.
So the main thing I saw, at least, statistically, if we were to compare every Finals MVP of the last, I don't even remember, it was like 30 years or something like that. He had the lowest by far. It was crazy. And that's just because everybody was efficient. Usually a player's PER is a lot higher just because they're doing everything, the rest of the team it might be doing well. It was like they're carrying. And that wasn't happening, just ultimately. But overall, I think the other thing too is just I think I would agree with just even like the bigger shots. It's just like there wasn't a lot of for whether or not you agree with the narrative or not of narrative voting, things like that. There were a ton of iconic moments in like this finals run overall, at least, where it's like, oh, this happened and like it's going to be remembered for years and years. I mean, the biggest one was probably Peyton Pritchard hitting a half quarter. If like that's the one I remember, at least. I'm sure there's other ones that, obviously if you're a fan of the team, you're going to remember more. But overall, I think Jaylen Brown probably deserved it. I would agree there. But yeah, it really was a toss-up at the end of the day. And yeah, the biggest one was just even like field goal percentage wise, Tatum was a bit lower. I think that was the only thing statistically he was probably worse in. So, yeah.
Chase, what do you think?
I was sure Dawson was going. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's kind of tough just because like I mentioned, like literally everybody like I feel like just contributed like equally. I don't know. I guess I could see like how you could give it to someone else over Jaylen Brown. Um, I'm kind of in the same shoes as you, Brock. To be honest, like I really don't know. But like I mean, it makes sense for Jaylen Brown. Like I'm not arguing it or anything. I kind of think it would be funny if Drew Holiday won it. I would love to see Hunter's reaction. Um, but yeah, no, like on a serious note, I really could see it going either way, to be honest. So I don't really got a whole lot of opinion there.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Tatum's game 1 and game 2 not being like great, I think he would have ran away with this award. And obviously Brown hit the big shot in game 3 that essentially ended the series. So just off that note, I think Jaylen should have won the MVP. Now Tatum had a great game 5, but I feel like everyone knew Boston was going to win the series that game, no matter what. Especially once Hunter said that Peyton made that half court shot. But it at the end of the day doesn't really move me either way. I mean, we've seen some weird Finals MVPs in the past, most notably like 2015 and Andre Iguodala. There was a random year when the Celtics won it in the 80s where Bird, McHale, or Parrish didn't win it. It was Cedric Maxwell. Like, the Finals MVP is just kind of random every single year. It's just who catches fire at the right time. So it doesn't really affect me either way.
Honestly, if Luka managed to average 35, they could have just given it to him. Low key, though.
Why not give it to Brad?
No, you can't do that.
How about Tim Hardaway Jr. hitting 5 threes in game 4 in the fourth quarter? Give it to him.
Huge.
No, yeah. But didn't they for like NHL? Didn't they give that to like I forget what the word's called, but didn't they give that to McDavid or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd been funny.
I mean, yeah, Chase is not wrong that when Brad was coaching, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan. And when he made the transition over to the front office, I was ecstatic because one, it meant Danny Ainge was kind of on the way out. And again, that's not to discredit anything Danny Ainge ever did for the Celtics. I mean, without him, the Celtics aren't sitting here right now. We if we're going to give credit to Brad, you also have to give credit to Danny Ainge for setting up the Celtics for an amazing future, because when they knew that big three with, I don't know if you consider Rondo, KG, and Paul Pierce a big three, but like when Ray Allen left and they realized that KG and Paul Pierce were on their way down, passing their prime, Danny knew that it was time to make a move, and making a risky trade with Brooklyn, not knowing whether or not that was going to pan out, because Brooklyn could have had a good run, and all of a sudden they're looking at, lottery picks, let alone maybe late first rounders. And instead they got 2 top 3 picks and an amazing future because of that. The Celtics could be in a very, very dark place right now in terms of a franchise if it wasn't for Danny Ainge. But going back to the MVP situation, I think the one thing about this Finals MVP that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore since the recent free agent signings and re-signings that have happened. But Jaylen Brown did sign that big, at the time, the biggest NBA contract extension in NBA history. So with that comes a lot of expectations and responsibilities. So the fact that, I know maybe efficiency-wise, he wasn't necessarily the greatest. I mean, Hunter pointed out it wasn't nowhere near one of the best efficient NBA Finals runs for Jaylen Brown, but still, the guy knew that he needed to perform when he's getting paid that much money, because at the time he really hadn't proved himself to be a player that can do that or was worth the money. And I guess now he's proven it a little more. I mean, it's weird because this, like we've mentioned over and over again, this team was really good. Jaylen Brown was really good as well. I think if consistency wise, Jaylen Brown was the most consistent Celtic in the NBA playoffs run as a whole. So he very well established himself as someone that is deserving of that max extension, which, I mean, since then, his teammate Jason Tatum has signed the largest extension in NBA history. And it seems like the Celtics are going to be running it back with the same crew. I mean, do we want to talk about the Mavericks at all, or do we want to just kind of jump into free agency, which I mean kind of goes into the Mavericks a little bit?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing from the Mavericks we saw was just a lack of 3-point shooting, time and time again, outside of the masterclass that was Tim Hardaway Jr. being ahead by 15, 20 points and putting ball in basket. And so because of that, obviously now they have expectations. So, I think the thing that's been fun with having a league that's so parity driven now is that there's no guarantee you're going to make it back, right? You have to upgrade. You have to do something. And so they've gone out and done that. Now with Klay Thompson believed to do that, even though he went like 0 for 10 in the last game he played. But hopefully to help some of their shooting woes, also managed to drop off Tim Hardaway Jr. in the basketball mecca that is the city of Detroit, who I would love to talk about later. And then also brought in some other solid players, such as Najee Marshall, someone who's on my Bucks radar. That's going to be a stretch to get him. Obviously, looking at his contract, very much a stretch to get him. And hopefully that should help, especially with losing Derek Jones, who is kind of their stretch 4-man. They were able to bring in somebody to kind of solidify that spot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I personally think that the signing for Klay Thompson is huge for the Mavericks just because of how much Luka and Kyrie are going to be kind of handling the ball. Thompson, I feel like, is a great catch and shoot guy. I mean, he's proven it. I just watched the 38-point third quarter against the Sacramento Kings. What did he take, like less than 10 dribbles the entire time in that quarter, and put up 38 points or whatever the record is that he holds for points in a quarter. So he can move without the ball, and I know he's up there in age, but you don't need to be necessarily the quickest. You just need to make the smartest moves. And if he's able to with the system under Jason Kidd, which I think Jason Kidd, I know Hunter may have different opinions on him. I do think he is a really good coach, and can put players in a situation to win. So we'll see what it looks like. Dawson and Chase, what do you guys think about Klay Thompson signing? I know, Chase, you're probably a little more disappointed than everybody else being a Lakers fan, because it seemed like the Lakers were going to take a chance on him. LeBron made it sound like he was willing to take a pay cut for him, but unfortunately, Klay Thompson goes to Dallas.
Yeah, can we actually start with Dawson, because I'm going to go on a rant. I don't want to take forever.
Yeah, go ahead, Dawson.
All right. I like the Klay Thompson move to Dallas. Here's the thing, though. You brought up that Sacramento third quarter. Was that 9 years ago already, or 8 years ago?
Just forever.
And yeah, 3 ACL tear or 2 ACL tears and an Achilles tear. I think he's a great player. I know his last game in Golden State was a bad way to end his tenure there, but I think he's going to be fit in perfect with that Dallas Maverick offense. For me right now, the guy that's most like a young LeBron, maybe not athleticism wise, but like passing wise, is Luka. And I've always really liked the fit with Klay and LeBron, and I even better like the fit with Klay and Luka. Then you have Kyrie. They've already added some pieces. Derek Lively's hopefully takes a year or two jump that puts him in the upper echelon of centers in the league. So I think Dallas has a great chance of coming back to the finals to hopefully play Boston or any of the other teams out east.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, Golden State did, replace Klay Thompson with, the quickest shooter in NBA history in Kyle Anderson. So maybe that will be the answer they need to get back to the NBA Finals. Chase, being a Lakers fan, obviously we mentioned that. How are you feeling, not only as a Lakers fan, but just overall with Klay Thompson signing to Dallas?
Yeah, I'll start off with my Laker fan rant. So as the famous Brock Berman once said, death, taxes, and Lakers never getting anybody that they're going to get in free agency. Just the same old thing every year, man. It's ridiculous that I must say the greatest player of all time is willing to take a pay cut to try to get another ring, and you can't go out and sign anybody. I feel awful for Bron. But at the same time, though, like, I won't even lie. I'm not even sure, like, what to believe anymore. Just, like, like on Twitter, just like anything. Like I don't know like what is true and what is not when like these rumors are going around. Like I know Lakers obviously like they're rumored to get everybody. So like my thoughts on like Rob like right now, like at first I was pretty upset, but like now like I've also seen like some stuff where like teams are asking like ridiculous just like requests for like trades, and it's like I don't know. It's like I don't want to like give up like a terrible future either. I don't know. There's a lot to think about, so I've kind of backed off Rob a little bit there, just because it's probably a lot to deal with. I don't want to give up your future, you know. So yeah, obviously bummed though about not getting Clay. I think that would have helped big time. I think though, yeah, like Dawson and Hunter said, I think he should help out the Mavericks 3-point shooting a lot. And I was talking about it the other night, I forget, but like I feel like just kind of watching the Mavs over the year too, like a lot of teams are starting to like double Luka a little bit and get the ball out of his hands, which is going to be perfect for Clay because as long as he gets spotted up, get open, it's going to allow so many more shots for him too. Just because teams are going to try to get the ball out of Luka's hands, and maybe teams might switch that now just because the Mavericks got a shooter, so maybe that will change how teams play the Mavs. But I think it just makes them more versatile now. So yeah, overall, just I really like the signing too for the Mavs. So those are my thoughts.
I think the other big thing too, with specifically bringing in Clay, but also in dropping off Tim Hardaway in Detroit, they were able to bring back Quentin Grimes. My boy Isaac, he's a New York Knicks fan. That man loved Quentin Grimes. But to be able to have Quentin Grimes be a potential Klay Thompson disciple, to be someone to learn under him, because he's only like 23 or 24 still, I think. And very much has like a 3-and-D kind of mold. And obviously Clay, much more of a talented 3-and-D player, borderline just all-star, was an all-star literally in his career. But to be able to have somebody who has that talent, that skill set, to be able to help Quentin Grimes, who already does that pretty well, and continue to learn under that, will definitely be helpful for the Mavericks in the future, as Luka's still pretty young. So
yeah. And Chase, you mentioned that it seems like the asking price for specifically any trade involving the Lakers has been kind of like overblown. Do you guys think that's the league kind of like teaming up against the Lakers and not wanting the Lakers to succeed anymore? Because it's weird, because like I thought the Celtics kind of had that kind of thing for a while, because nobody really wanted to make a move with the Celtics because it would put the Celtics in a good position. And then all of a sudden they got Porzingis and Drew Holiday last year, which was kind of a rarity when it comes to blockbuster trades with the Celtics. Because I mean, Celtics made some good moves. They took a risk on Derek White, as it paid off very well, and not necessarily trading for like amazing players, but it seems like the Lakers are always involved with some kind of marquee name, at least not necessarily top 10 in the league, but like a borderline all-star or a former all-star that could potentially still have something left in the tank. Do you guys think the league is kind of like, no, screw the Lakers, we don't want the Lakers to succeed anymore, and we don't want LeBron to get another ring?
I feel like I have a very unbiased opinion, and I don't want to start this conversation. So I'm a wait to get my answer.
Chase, you want to give us your biased answer or unbiased answer?
I mean, see, like that's my thing too. But it's like I don't know also like what to believe, because I know there's a Lakers reporter out there who just reports a bunch of garbage, and like it's just not true. Like the whole like Jeremy Grant thing, like I just swear to get like that is not true. There's absolutely no way. Watch it the next couple of days, it actually be true. But like there's no way that like that's even right now. So I don't know what to believe out there, but I don't know.
I think there's some weird ones too, especially with it being the Lakers. Something that I take for granted a lot with my my boy Jonathan Horst. That man loves to keep things in wraps. Like the whole Damian Lillard trade, when that happened, Bucks were not on the radar that whole time. I loved joking about it and said this was going to happen. For anybody out there that doesn't know me that well, Damian Lillard was my favorite basketball player that did not play for for the Milwaukee Bucks. And he ended up in a Bucks jersey after I said for a whole like 2 years, Damian Lillard's going to look so good with that Milwaukee, with that buck on his chest. And then it happened. But Jonathan Horst, he loves to just like keep things under wraps. And because of how small a market Milwaukee is, and there's also some mixed opinions on Milwaukee's beat writer not being stellar at his job. But when you play for when you write for the Los Angeles Lakers, 1, it's the city of Los Angeles. 2, it's the Lakers, one of the most historic and well-known basketball and sports franchises in the entire world. Anything you do will get out somehow, no matter what. Whether or not the name could get brought up in a boardroom and it's going to be on Twitter 5 minutes later. Like, oh my gosh, they said this name and now this happened. And then all of a sudden everyone's rushing and they're like, take this Jeremy Grant example. Jeremy Grant's going to be a Laker. And it's like, nobody knows. Like, he might be, he could, but he also probably won't be. And so I think it becomes very tough, like Chase just said, to know what exactly is true and what isn't. I could see there being a stigma with LeBron being in his last year where a lot of people are like, all right, LeBron's almost out of here. We got to make sure he doesn't get another ring. So that way, we can build our own legacy and then people won't be talking about LeBron 5 years from now still, even though people are still going to talk about LeBron for years and years and years and years and years to go, no matter what. But I think that could be a possibility, but I don't actually know. So,
Dawson, do you have any opinions on this Lakers situation?
We should have known that LeBron was full of crap with taking the minimum when one of the players that was on his list of he was taking a minimum was Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Like, that should have been red flag number 1. No disrespect to Jonas Valanciunas. He's a good NBA player. In no world is LeBron James going to take a $20 million pay cut for Jonas Valanciunas. So that's my first thought. Second thought, I do think there is a little bit of a stigma where it's like teams don't want to really help the Lakers win. Maybe it's a LeBron factor. Maybe it's just a Lakers factor in general, or they just don't like trading with Rob Pelinka. So I think that's part of it. But I don't know what to really think of the Lakers free agents anymore. They had chances to trade D'Lo and Rui last year, and I feel like that was their plan this year, and they still haven't done anything. I think they're kind of just content with being a 7 seed, 6 seed, like they were last year, and kind of sneaking their way into the playoffs. Because I think if you're LeBron, all you're thinking is just get me in the playoffs, and we can see what happens. Because as much as people want to forget how close that Denver series actually was in the first round, if Denver didn't have all those crazy comebacks, we could be talking about LeBron playing the T-Wolves in round 2. Who knows what happens from there? I don't think they beat them, but you never know with the playoffs. So those are kind of just my overall thoughts on the Lakers.
And you mentioned the Nuggets. Is it time to push the panic button if you're a Nuggets fan?
yes, Brock, it is time. It is time. I've been dying to say this for weeks now. They have avoided so much. There's been so much smoke blown over with this team. They lost KCP and got nothing back. And we're not talking about that more? Are you kidding me? I had Giannis Antetokounmpo before he won a ring. Everyone's like, oh, he's out of Milwaukee. He's out of Milwaukee. He's not going to stay. He's going to the Knicks. He's going to the Knicks. Where's that for Jokic now? Where is it? Man just lost in the second round. Where's his stuff? Come on, man. Getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. Boogie Cousins. Getting ridiculous.
We talk about the Celtics and how deep of a team it was as a roster and how everybody kind of fit their role. And really huge players for that Nuggets team was KCP and Bruce Brown. And both of them are no longer in Denver. And so I don't know where they're a team that I feel like can compete in the regular season, but in the postseason, I don't know if they have a team put together to make a run that's going to be worth talking about, or even a team worth talking about in the playoffs in general. Dawson, Chase, what are your guys' thoughts? If I'm a Nuggets fan, or if I got Nuggets stock, I would be mad right now if I have Nuggets stock still and I haven't sold, because I would have sold it last year because I'm not sure if I knew if I would have considered them as a considered back-to-back opportunity, but they lost Bruce Brown and now they've lost KCP, two of their glue guys. And yeah, you can have Jamal Murray and Jokic, but I don't think that gets you over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be mad too if I had Piston stock, but that's a whole different story. So, but yeah, no, it makes me very happy that we have people on the podcast that hate the Denver Nuggets as I do. So I would love to talk about this, but yeah, no, I mean, if you like you mentioned, like literally the year before, Bruce Brown was probably like not. I mean, it kind of like I'd probably take out proportion, but he was a really important part of that team, and then he goes, they don't really get anything back for that, and then yeah, now Lakers legend KCP flees. And they what do they want in return? Like Russell Westbrook? Like, what is that going to do for you? Unless he turns into like OKC Westbrook, which won't happen. But yeah, it's really fun to enjoy to see the downfall of the Denver Nuggets. I won't lie. But yeah, like I don't know like how they're going to get over the hump unless they play the Lakers every year in the playoffs. But like, so I don't know where they're going to go from here because I mean their bench is, in my opinion, I think their bench is awful. Like the starting five is pretty solid, obviously still, but like their bench is like they need way more better pieces off the bench. So that's just kind of my original thoughts.
Think about who they've lost since they've won the title. I mean, we've already harped on Bruce Brown and KCP, but they've also lost Jeff Green, who you could say what you want about old man Jeff Green. He was contributing to that Denver roster. They had to trade away Reggie Jackson, who wasn't great in the playoffs, but he was a productive bench player for them because they're in cap hell right now. And the fact that they're rumored to be trading for Westbrook, like I don't know really what's going to go on. They have a lot of faith, I think, in their young guys they've drafted, in Peyton Watson and Christian Brown. And I know there's another one that like Zeke Naji and guys like that. But those aren't the guys that are going to help you win your second title in 3 years. It's your veteran role players. And with them losing 4 in the last 2 off seasons, that just hurts their chances even more to win the title.
And I mean, you guys spoke about veteran leadership, veteran role players. I know this is a team that Chase wanted to definitely talk about at some point in this podcast. The 76ers have made a couple moves this offseason. Of course, on paper, the one that a lot of people are talking about is the Paul George one. I personally do like the move of re-signing Kelly Oubre and also getting Andre Drummond. I think people forget how big of an impact Andre Drummond can actually have on the boards. I mean, is it as big of a cheat code as 2K makes him when it comes to rebounding? No, but he's still averaging around 9 rebounds a game as a non-starter or non-huge contributor as he was in Detroit. What are your guys' thoughts on the 76ers, more specifically the obvious signing of Paul George? I mean, Hunter and I talked about it a little bit after game 4, was it, when Joel Embiid and Paul George were on the NBA Countdown show, and it made it kind of almost obvious that it was going to happen. I don't know if at the time they really knew that was going to happen, but Paul George is a 76er and Embiid's got another somewhat star. Got to take that with a grain of salt, given Paul George has been injured a lot over the past couple of years, as well as he is not Paul George of Indiana. Honestly, I think a lot of people forget how good Paul George was in Oklahoma City when it comes to efficiency from behind the arc. But what are your guys' thoughts on the 76ers? Are they the number 2 team? I know we're going to get to the Knicks and the Bucks, but where do you guys have them as Eastern Conference contenders right now?
So I didn't even think about this. If I were to ask Brock, though, to pull up a graphic of Team USA's roster picture, like the one that they have as a team, there is one man in that photo that has not made it to a conference finals. And I think we all know the name of that one man. And let me tell you, that one man is now on a team who has a man by the nickname of Pandemic P. I am not shaking in my boots until I see Demon Caleb Martin put a hand in his face. That's the only thing I'm scared of. And Tyrese Maxey. That was a good signing for them that we all saw coming. I will be moved in the regular season. I will not be moved in the offseason. until I see them actually win a game 7, because it'll go 7 games no matter who they play. Round 2, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree on it. I was going to say we are not moved at all. Not moved, man. Podcast P, man, he is, I mean, like, what is he? I don't know. He never did anything on the Clippers. I think I was telling Hunter this, or maybe I was telling you, Brian. I can't remember. He never did anything on the Clippers with Kawhi and a bunch of other stars. And now you expect him to do something with a guy who, like Hunter said, hasn't even made a conference finals. Like, I don't know. Like, and it's kind of funny too, because like over the years, like I just really, I mean, like I followed like the Eastern Conference still, but like now, like after like talking with you boys, like I actually have a deep hatred for the Sixers now that I never have had before. So thank you guys for that. No, seriously, but like I don't know. It also kind of like the Sixers team like just gets me going because I like really love Tyrese Maxey, dude. Like I wish he was not on that team. And then also it kind of pained me. I know I'll probably get bullied for this, but I really wanted the Lakers to draft Jared McCain too. I know he's a guy, but I think that he's a really good player too. I think he has a lot of potential. Hunter's gonna clown me right now. So I kind of hate seeing him go there as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like Hunter said though, I am absolutely not moved at all by that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
The amount of photos I already have stocked up about the 76ers on my phone is probably concerning to some people. Because boy howdy, there's a handful already.
I mean, are we do you guys consider Andre Drummond not a good signing at all?
No, I think that, yeah, okay, that's fair. I do like that one. I mean, he already was on that team before too. He played with Embiid, which helps out. He'll be, especially, I feel like he was almost too needed on the Bulls with Vooch kind of just falling off the face of the earth for a while there. And like he's still a good player, but he probably wasn't what the Bulls really. Well, he wouldn't. He was not going to amount at this point in his career to what the Bulls need. He can do that when they do have Joel Embiid at center, and he just has to go in there, grab rebounds, and block some shots so Embiid can get a breather. And like that's all they need out of him. That is, I would agree with that. That's a good signing. So,
and I feel like Andre in Chicago would have only worked if Lonzo was healthy, just because he would have been able to find ways to get Andre the ball down low in certain ways. Because people forget Lonzo is a good distributor of the ball. I think if and when he does get back on the court at some point, I feel like he's going to hopefully show some people that he still has something left. Of course, that injury, who knows what's going to happen. A lot of people have compared him to Brandon Roy, which if that's the case, the future for Lonzo is grim for sure. But with Tyrese Maxey and how quick Tyrese Maxey is, if you're a defender, you got 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds, barely half a second to decide if you're going to go help off of him or not, if he's on the drive. And that's going to be great for Andre Drummond, who's kind of slower. So he can just be like, okay, I am going to be wide open because if someone commits, they are not going to get back to me in time.
True. There are also reports of them bringing in Eric Gordon. I'm pretty sure that's like confirmed, but he hasn't put pen to paper, which is something that's been really annoying about the offseason the past few years, is there's a lot of that now. And that, I mean, whether or not you want to agree with me or not, Eric Gordon can be a good basketball player at times. He can still shoot the rock, even though he's as old as the rock. So that helps out too, because then, you got him to dump it off just in the corner. And then, bring back Kelly Oubre too to do that same thing. Helps out. I am interested, though, to see Kelly Oubre and Paul George on the same team. That will be fun.
The thing that I'm interested in is that Paul George isn't like Klay Thompson where he's a catch and shoot guy. He kind of has to create his own shot off the dribble. And granted, you know what? That will work really well with him and Embiid. I do think that will work. Him off of screens, him off of just actions with the ball, he can create his own shot. The problem is, my opinion, Tyrese Maxey is a good shooter overall, but Tyrese Maxey also needs to create his own shot. We saw that in the playoffs when he demands the ball and gets the ball and makes a move. He can get to the hoop quicker than anybody in the NBA. I don't know how that's going to work with Paul George, really. Maybe they're going to do some back cuts and set screens with Andre Drummond, maybe, where Tyrese is coming off of the back side and, you can dish it to him. But I don't know. Those two, Similar, I will say it's similar to, it's giving me similar vibes to Kyrie and Luka, where they're both kind of ISO guys. The difference is that these two, Tyrese is an ISO guy. Paul George used to be an ISO guy. I think he needs more help from like screens and stuff to be able to create his own shot. But both guys are shot creators off the dribble, not catch and shoot guys. And I'm interested to see if that will work. Dawson, what do you think about this signing?
Man, I don't know if I've said this before, but I kind of like that the Clippers didn't re-sign him. I know we haven't even touched on that point, but the contract he got from Philly is going to pay him like almost $70 million a year that last year. And Paul George is going to be 38 years old. And we know what Paul George is like at 34. I know we've all seen the graphic. Who's going to stop Philly? And it's Maxey, Embiid, and George. And underneath, it's just a picture of their ankles or their knees. Like, that's what's going to stop this team, is Joel Embiid's knees and Paul George's knees. So the other signings they've made are good. I like Caleb Martin. I think he can be a good player. Eric Gordon's a good shooter. Bringing back Kelly Oubre, who was one of their better scorers last year, is good. But honestly, I just don't see how this team stacks up against Boston, who just won the title. I think Milwaukee's going to come back better. New York, we know the moves that they've made. Like, I don't know how they stack up against those three.
Yeah. And before we get to New York, because we're definitely talking Knicks basketball because they have made good moves. We admit that they've made moves that are going to put them in a good position. You mentioned that we should probably touch on the future for the Clippers. Let's be honest. It's a weird thing because they got James Harden and Kawhi, but Kawhi hasn't been Kawhi, that the Toronto Raptors version of Kawhi Leonard, since he left Toronto. Since he got on a plane to go to LA, did what it do, baby. And since then, nothing. James Harden, I will say James Harden in LA has worked very well compared to what I thought it was going to be. They started out terrible, but they did started working and getting better, and Harden seemed to be fitting in there. I personally, if I'm the Clippers, of course, this is me sitting in my house doing this, I truly believe it's going to get worse before it gets better for this franchise. I think you need to blow it up. What's your guys' thoughts?
The thing that's weird about this too. So I also, because the big thing with Paul George that he said on his own podcast. Well, I don't actually know if this is on his podcast or not. It might have been his agent. The main reason that he did not sign with the Clippers, and this was a big deal, was that he wanted that 4th year, and the Clippers were not willing to give it to him. They're like, we're only giving you a 3-year deal. And Paul George was like, all right, I'll go somewhere else then. And I think the thing that's weird is not the fact that they didn't like re-sign him. It's the fact that they didn't re-sign him knowing that they could then trade him because there are other teams that are going to want him. And instead now we're going to be seeing graphics of the Clippers, what they gave to OKC for Paul George, which at the time, fine trade. As Brock said earlier, Paul George was an MVP candidate. He's a top 3 player in the NBA that year that they traded for and like brought him in. And Kawhi was like, I want this guy on my basketball team. So they brought him in. They did everything that it took to get him. What they have gotten in return is one conference finals appearance. And now Paul George walks away with nothing to show for, and the Clippers get nothing in return. And all they had to do was say, yeah, we'll give you that 1 year and then send you somewhere else. So that way we can do something with this money. And now they're sitting with their hands in the pockets and they're like, well, at least we have a new arena. Like that's all they have now. And yeah, I agree. I think this team just has gotten, it's been played out at this point. It's been played out just time and time again where they're in this conversation that they probably shouldn't be in, but they have Kawhi, and oh my gosh, what if Kawhi turns into 2019 Kawhi Leonard again? And we haven't seen that happen, nor has he stayed healthy for that to happen in the first place. And instead, now we get to watch more James Harden basketball, who also will not be Rockets James Harden. And so it is very, very confusing from this point forward for this team to decide what they're going to do, because they keep bringing in this talent to try and compete and to pair well with their players that are there already, when there's going to be nothing that they can actually show for it. And they're just getting rid of assets and dumping all these assets into what's their peak as a team? Maybe making the conference finals if they get lucky. Maybe probably getting to the second round if they get a good first round matchup. Like that's where this team can go ultimately. And I don't know how you can just be content with that. Because like Brock said, it's only going to get worse.
Hunter said it well. Anybody else got any inputs on the Lakers? Lakers. Sorry, I
agree.
apologize.
That team too.
I apologize, Chase. I did not mean to put you and the Clippers in the same conversation at this time because they are nowhere near in the same levels. Do you guys have any other input? I think Hunter said it well.
Sorry. I still don't know why the Clippers didn't do that sign and trade with Golden State to send him over there. Like, I know they would have gotten an old Chris Paul on an expensive contract and like salary fillers and a pick, but that's still more than you got nothing for Paul George. Paul George walked out the door for absolutely nothing, and you traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 9 first-round picks or whatever it is until 2027. Like Hunter already stated it, I won't go too in depth on it, but I still don't know why they didn't trade him to Golden State. And it sounded like it almost happened, and I still don't know why like it didn't like go through.
I know we've flamed him a couple times, but can we give credit to Sam Presti for pulling that off?
Fair.
All right. Sure, Brock.
Just because the Clippers literally got nothing. They sent all that for nothing. They didn't do one lick of what they thought they were going to do with Paul George and Kawhi.
What's crazy is I believe one of the picks that the Thunder got from the Clippers turned out to be J-Dub, and they got Shai from it. Like, that wasn't a Thunder pick that drafted J-Dub. That was a Clipper pick. So you essentially have 2 of the 3 best players on your team from the Los Angeles Clippers that you have to thank for. Just crazy to me.
Yeah, I just want to let you boys know I greatly appreciate you. I did not think I would ever have the day where I don't even have to slander the Clippers because my friends got me. So appreciate you boys. You guys pretty much covered it all, man. I love it. Also, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, the Clippers kind of remind me. I know we talked about it earlier, like the Nets with like old KG and Paul Pierce here. Like, I mean, Kawhi and James Harden are literally just like on the downfall. I feel like of the career. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll just pull something out. But like, I just feel like everything's going downhill, and like Brock said, they just need to blow it up. And then this is also a sidetracked. I don't know why it's popped in my head, and I don't know why I'm praising the Celtics, but I really like to like. I don't know. This is really random. I really like how the Celtics just like kept their same team together. Because nothing made me more mad than after when the Lakers won their title. It just like the whole team got blown up basically. And Lincoln tried signing guys that just like did not fit. So I'm impressed with the Celtics just keeping their whole team together. And I don't know why that came into my head. That's really off topic, but I was just gonna throw that in there for Brock.
No, I think it's a good thing to point out, especially we haven't seen a back-to-back champion since the KD Warriors teams. Which, I mean, again, those teams are in a different stratosphere when it comes to levels of eliteness just because of the talent on there. But, like, keeping a team together, we'll see what the Celtics do. If they're able to do that, if they're able to go back-to-back or even 2 titles in 3 years, that's an impressive feat in this NBA that is so filled with parity because – who knows? We might get an NBA champion next year that hasn't won in the last 6 years in any of those finals. And I mean, the Clippers are not going to be one of those teams. I will guarantee you that. I do have one video that I wanted to pull up. Again, it's off my phone from like whenever the signing of Kawhi happened. It's off of my phone, saved from Snapchat. So if it's bad quality, I apologize, but I wanted to play this. So when Kawhi signed with the Clippers, Max Kellerman, who is no longer on First Take, not necessarily because of his terrible takes, confirmed that the Clippers are going to win the NBA title. I have since graduated from DMEC, graduated from Iowa State University, and 1 semester away from getting my master's degree from Iowa State University as well. And we are still waiting for a Clippers finals appearance. That's all I got to say about the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George era in Los Angeles.
Hey, man, Clippers are going to clip, so I'm going to leave it at.
But getting back to free agency, I mean, we'll hit on the draft a little bit. There's not a ton really when it comes to this draft. We all knew it was kind of a weekend draft compared to the previous years. The New York Knicks have made some moves that the Knicks are on the levels of the Celtics and Lakers when it comes to free agency. A lot of people always assume they're getting some big name, but they never do. If anything, out of the 3 teams of the Celtics, Lakers, and Knicks, they're the ones that usually get left out of getting the big-time names. They've gotten some decent names. I'm not going to lie. A re-sign OG, which is a good move for the Knicks, as well as getting Bridges from Brooklyn, which, I mean, is not that too far of a drive for Bridges, so he doesn't have to make a huge haul over to Madison Square Garden. What are your guys' thoughts on the Knicks? And honestly, I do want to get to the point, Hunter, you can bring up your Bucks and how they've been doing this offseason as well. Assuming that the Celtics are number 1 in the East heading into the next season, and if you don't believe that, feel free to chime in with your opinions as well. Who's number 2? Or who's number 2 and the Bucks are number 1? Or whatever, the Cavs, whoever you think. Who's number 2 in the East? And what are your guys' thoughts on the Knicks?
I'm going to be intrigued to see. I think something that I overestimate a lot in today's NBA is the center position, because teams don't seem to value that anymore, which is fair. It's probably fair, but I am intrigued to see now. Obviously, they have a studded lineup between Jalen Brunson. Honestly, even having just the Nova core in general, it will be good to have them all together because they can just play so well together. I'm assuming. I'm guessing them getting along fairly well will probably translate to a basketball court in some way when they're all NBA players. But then they kind of just have Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson are kind of at the party, but yeah, I remember the good old days and they weren't ever there. That being said, though, that center position is where I would be concerned a little bit, just because with my team, with the Milwaukee Bucks, who in the world on that team is going to stand in front of a 7-foot Hercules from stopping him to get ball into basket? Because Josh Hart, great defender, the man's 6'4" and plays power forward. I don't know how that ends well for him ultimately. And so they obviously they maybe have Mitchell Robinson. So I guess Mitchell Robinson's kind of been, a little vocal, and more specifically, his dad has been a little vocal on not being happy sometimes with the front office over in New York. But I don't know how putting Julius Randle at the 5 necessarily solves a lot of problem. And they lost Hartenstein. Good for that man getting a bag. I don't think he's worth that money. I don't know if I like Sam Presti with that move. It's good to bring him in. That's a lot of money for Isaiah Hartenstein, aka Dirt. If you know, you know. But overall, though, I do love this. I think it'll work still. It'll be good. They have great spacing. That is the offset of not having a true center in today's NBA. So you have 5 guys out there who can just stand around, and you're probably going to get a bucket worth 3 points in some universe. And so I think this solidifies. I personally think they're still better than the 76ers. Even after acquiring Paul George. I try to put my bias aside as best as I can. They probably would beat Milwaukee in the current state Milwaukee's in. Who knows, though? I think it would still be competitive. Like I said, I don't know who stops Giannis, but they have a very talented front court, or I guess back court. Their front court is also talented, but, it won't stop Giannis. Their back court, definitely very, very talented. And so I think I would put them probably at number 2 right now, which could change in a week or two potentially. But I think they are definitely in the upper echelon of contenders that are from the Eastern Conference in today's NBA.
Yeah. I guess I'll dive in here real quick. Sorry, Dawson. Yeah, I obviously think, yeah, it's kind of just funny that all the Nova guys are back together. I think I saw it today on Twitter, like Kill Bridges saying he's gonna miss the Nets. It's like, come on, man, what are you gonna miss? Like Cam Thomas? Like, no, you're not.
He's trying to stay face, man.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to throw that in there. That was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. I think Hunter touched on it pretty well. I know. I don't know. Obviously, I got a little Bucks bias too in me. Now because I'm good friends with Hunter, but I think something that like I know I've talked about with Hunter a little bit that we like, kind of forget about is like Dame now actually has like an off season like where he can start like working out and like he's gonna be ready to go from like day one this upcoming year. Where like his last year is a little bit different. I think like after having like 1 year in Milwaukee now, I think if he can stay healthy, like if this whole Bucks team can stay healthy, I think it's going to be a lot different than last year. I'm not saying that they're going to be the 2 seed. Like who knows what's going to happen, but I just want to throw that in there as well. I still think just talking about the Bucks, like, and I agree with what Hunter says. Like I think Bobby and Pat, I don't know. They need to go, in my opinion. I think Brooke is also getting way up there in age. I know the punter can probably speak to that too, but I don't know. I think it's kind of a toss-up between all three, but I would probably, as of right now, I mean, no, Hunter might not agree, but I might have the Bucks probably at 2, and then Knicks 3 and Sixers 4. Who knows though? You guys know the East a little bit better than me, so that's just what I got.
Dawson, your Cavs got Donovan.
Yeah, and crickets since.
They made a big splash. It was like a fireworks show where the first firework is this amazing explosion, and then a bunch of little ones after that.
There's 2 different answers to this question in my opinion. I think regular season wise, I think the Knicks will finish second because Tom Thibodeau will play that team into the ground where everybody is so injured, hurt at the end of the season that I think like.
What are you talking about? Big Perk on ESPN says that it's a different version of Tom Thibodeau. He's not the same. His players never get hurt. That never happens anymore.
I
Julius
suggest
Randle
you watch,
not playing in the playoffs.
I was gonna say I suggest you watch Game 7 against the Indiana Pacers and Game 6 against the Indiana Pacers. But I think they'll finish second regular season wise, just because I think they're gonna try harder in the regular season. I think teams like Milwaukee kind of just know that once they get in the playoffs, I know the last few years haven't been ideal, but they can compete with almost anyone if they're healthy. So I wouldn't be too stressed out like regular season wise. But if you're telling me like teams I'd pick to make the finals out of the East, I think clearly it's Boston number 1, without a question. I would go with Milwaukee number 2. I would go New York 3, and then 4-5 is either Philly or Cleveland in my opinion, but it flip-flops either day. But yeah, that's kind of where I feel on the Knicks right now.
I mean, hey, we can't forget about Demon Time Alec Burks now being in Miami, guys. That was a pretty big signing that could really just fix everything going on in South Beach right now.
Terry's still there though, right?
I think so. I don't know anymore, dude. Like that
team, that roster is so weird. The fact though that they don't have playoff Caleb Martin though, that Celtic killer Caleb Martin. People forget him and Strus. Those two are the demon killers when it comes to the Celtics in the playoffs. So the fact that neither of them are in Miami's team anymore, it's going to be tough for them to compete in the playoffs. And I mean, heck, I know we're not social media. It's hard to read into some things anymore, but like, it doesn't look like it's all sunshine and rainbows in Miami anymore. Anyways, I truly don't believe that the situation, the relationship with Jimmy Butler and Miami isn't where it used to be. So who knows and Bam just signed that extension. Bam might have just signed himself into a situation that he may not want to be in because he wants to compete for titles as well. But for me, yeah, Celtics number 1. I think regular season wise, I'd probably put the Knicks as 2 as well. Regular season wise as well. This is not playoff wise. Regular season wise, I do see a world where Indiana finishes 3rd.
Brock, I'm gonna not punch you through this computer screen. I'm gonna do my best to not.
But remember, I did point out the fact that their run in the playoffs last year reminded me a lot of that Atlanta Hawks run to the conference finals not so long ago. And look what happened to the Atlanta Hawks. They haven't been there since then. But I could see a world where Indiana finishes third and Milwaukee finishes fourth. But at the same time, I could also see Milwaukee finishing second and Indiana following all the way to seventh. So it's one of those things where the East is really weird right now because the regular season, I truly believe, I feel like when the season starts, there will be 9 teams that could make that I think will have a good chance making the playoffs. And then really it's tiers when it comes to like where they could place that in seeding, because I don't think there will be a surprise really in teams on the Eastern Conference side. I feel like the top dogs are the top dogs that we're going to expect going into the season, and the potential teams that will make the playoffs but won't make a run will be the same teams that we expect heading into the year. I don't think we'll have a situation where we go into it and it's like, oh, all of a sudden Indiana is an amazing team or a team that everybody's talking about. So Western Conference side, I think that's a little different because that conference, isn't it weird that we are sitting in 2024 and we are still having the same conversation about the same conference being unpredictable because it's so competitive, and the East is still considered a weaker conference. We're talking about that all the way back in like 08, 09. Like things haven't changed, and you think that it would change because of the draft or free agency or something like that. It still hasn't changed, and players still don't really. I do think they do care a little bit, but at the same time, they're not necessarily against playing in the tough Western Conference, because I mean, there is an argument where if you make it out of the Western Conference, that you probably already have a championship wrapped up, depending on who makes it from the Eastern Conference side.
And man, all I'm saying with this, the star-studded argument on both sides, I saw someone make a picture that put all-star caliber talents from each conference, and I had to see Jalen Green be put in the list of West all-star talents. I think we need to maybe open up the conversation a little bit more in that Eastern Conference if we're gonna be saying that. But I do agree, though. I think this year for the East will be weird because past few years it has been so like top heavy, where it's like the only teams you ever hear about in the East. I mean, prior to the Knicks having them bringing everybody home and they're resurgent as of late, it has always been Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, and the 76ers, and that's all you hear about. In the West, it's always like, oh man, like it's always weird because it's going to be a different team, a different spot. A lot of times it's like the same. You can say this about any league. It's always going to be the same kind of teams that make it into the playoffs. Every once in a while, you'll get like one team out of nowhere that just does really well. We saw that with the Kings a couple years ago. And even this last year, they played well, but not nearly as well. But it is very set in who is going to be good. But that's going to be so flipped here in a few years with Wemby, because who knows what that alien's going to be doing in 3 years. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I think, in the West who those like top 3 or 4 teams are going to be, because you always have to put like whoever made the finals like at number 1. But are the Mavericks really the best team in the West? I don't know if they really are. So I also have to pick a new team now that everybody's on the Mavericks. It kind of makes me sad.
The Pelicans.
Yeah. I love
healthy.
that signing and trade.
Any other free agency moves or even just postseason, off-season trades that you guys want to hit on? I mean, if it was 2014 and Wemby was on the Spurs and Chris Paul got traded there, I feel like that would be a headline that we'd be talking about. I think he'd be good. I think him and Wemby will sell tickets. Will be a fun team to watch. I don't think they'll really do anything. Any other moves that you guys want to hit on, or teams that you feel like people should keep an eye on? We will, before the end of the show, pick one winner, and we could do one loser maybe of the offseason if we want to do that as well. But any right now specific moves that you guys want to talk about?
I am interested in the wise words of my goat, Kenny. D Rose came home. D Rose being DeMar DeRozan, being in Sacktown now. I myself am not the most moved individual from that. DeRozan obviously did a lot for the Bulls as soon as he showed up. Gilbert Arenas really loved hating that man. He said he went to some bum cities, which is crazy to say about Chicago. As much as I hate on Chicago, it's a great place. Milwaukee's better though. I am interested in like how their offense is going to work now because their offense has just been crazy. And so it'll help out on that end. I don't know how convinced I am about DeMar DeRozan's defense anymore, which does not help probably their biggest need.
Good Lord, how old is he?
It's like
34, 15 years of experience. By the way, Kyle Anderson entering his 11th year in the NBA blows my mind. But yeah, DeMar, he's a weird player because I really don't have an issue with him. I don't have any hatred towards the guy. He's put up consistent numbers. I will say he had to get murdered for the Raptors to win a championship, which is really unfortunate because I really don't think he's a bad guy whatsoever. It's just the situation that he was put in, and I feel like that's going to be kind of his legacy, unfortunately, even though he's been an all-star. He's put up some good numbers. The Kings are a weird team as well because they're trying to build in a very difficult conference, and a lot of their players that they're getting right now are actually getting up there in age. In terms of you got to win now. Because, I mean, they moved on from Barnes. I think Barnes ended up in San Antonio after all the moves have been made. Another reason why I think the San Antonio Spurs will be a decent team to watch. For those that don't know, I think Harrison Barnes personally is a good player. I don't think he's elite by any means. Puts up good numbers. He's had a good career. He's won championships, whatever. But back to the Kings. I don't know what's Sabonis' age. He's got to be up there, right?
Maybe 27,
But he's 28 or 29.
28, 29. Let me look.
Because he was,
actually.
well, he was in 2016 draft, and we're 8 years past that. So I bet he's 28 or 27.
So he's 28. DeMar's 34. We're getting to the point where like a team that's building, the guys they're building off of are almost past their prime. DeMar's getting to the point where I think he's past his prime. He's still good. He's still a great player, but he's not DeMar of old. And Sabonis is getting up there close to 30. He's pushing 30. And so Sacramento is a weird situation. I'm not moved by this move at all. I don't think San Antonio is going to compete even in their own division, even though divisions don't matter in the NBA anymore. So yeah, if you guys want any other opinions on DeMar going to San Antonio, keep saying San Antonio. He's played for San Antonio, but he's playing for Sacramento now.
Yeah, Dawson. I got no opinion. I'm not moved either, Brock. I mean, they'll obviously probably be a little bit better now, but like I don't know. I just don't think it's still going to be enough. I promise I'll stop annoying you with Laker talk. But I know we didn't go out and sign anybody, but I think a name to keep an eye on is Max Christie. I won't lie, I was a Max Christie hater at first. I hated the draft pick, but he's actually shown like I've actually been pretty impressed with him the past year. When Darvin keeps his hands in, or when Darvin Mister keeps his hand in his pockets, actually plays him. Now that he's gone, I expect him to get a little bit more minutes now. I think he might be a name that you might kind of pop out, or kind of might pop out this year. On the Laker team. I know I'm sorry for annoying everyone with Laker talk, but that's kind of my last free agent signing. Obviously, Lakers are signing him, but I would keep an eye on him.
Perfect. Let's move into the NBA draft. Again, we mentioned the NBA draft was kind of, it wasn't anticlimactic. We knew what was going to happen going into it. The only player that really people had an eye on was someone in the second round, which we'll touch on later here. But the first round, obviously we saw some names. France is taking over the NBA at this point. Good Lord, the amount of players that are from France. I think you pronounce his name Sarr. Alex Sarr is how you pronounce his name. I saw a TikTok or a video of some sort talking about how he apparently, or someone was trying to like worsen his draft stock so he didn't go to Atlanta, so he would go to Washington. I don't know if you guys saw this video where someone was like, I don't know why Alex Sarr would try to tank his draft stock so he would go to Washington instead of Atlanta. That's a stuck franchise with Trae Young, and instead go to Washington where you can do literally whatever you want because there's no other stars. And now I'm starting to realize why Alex Sarr wanted to go to Washington over Atlanta. Long story short, I actually do like Alex Sarr. I've watched a couple clips on him. He looks like a guy that could turn into a very good player. The problem is the good thing is he'll be able to do whatever he wants in Washington. Washington is a franchise I don't think we'll be seeing in the playoffs for a while. Bad thing is he's in Washington. Washington isn't doing anything for a while. So maybe by the time his rookie contract's over, he can go somewhere else, or maybe he's traded of some sort. He's a guy that I really liked. Another one that I loved, and this is not going to be the last time I'm going to reference this team, but Minnesota trading for Rob Dillingham, I think, is going to be a move that people are going to talk about next season. Not even in the near future. I'm talking next season. Rob Dillingham in Minnesota is going to be considered one of the better moves in this NBA draft and overall this offseason, because I feel like he just fits so well with Minnesota. He shoots almost 50% from the field in his 1 year at Kentucky and shooting over 40% from three-point range. I think he's going to be a great addition for a team that's already considered one of the teams that people are already circling for potential contenders in the NBA. But that's my two takeaways from the first round was Alex Sarr being a potential future star in the NBA, and then Rob Dillingham being an absolute huge addition for Minnesota. I truly believe that San Antonio is actually going to regret this move.
Yeah. I was going to touch on this too. The main thing that I heard too about Sarr ending up in Washington is that the Hawks already have Jalen Johnson at the 4, which is seemingly the man that they want at the 4. Jalen Johnson's a really good player. And Alex Sarr's camp did not want to see him transition to be a 5. Did not want to see him at the center position. They want the ball in his hands because that's where all the money comes in, is when a player gets a ball in their hand. And when he's stuck at center with Trae Young and Jalen Johnson at the 4, he kind of just becomes lob threat defensive man Alex Sarr. Well, like you said in Washington, there's nothing to build on. You are the piece.
You are the Wizards.
Yo, if I were to say there's a wizard or a loser, nice. Those two words can be used interchangeably. A loser from this draft, it's not even a team or a name on this list. It's DeAndre Ayton. The Trailblazers went out and got Klingon when Ayton literally just sitting like in his chair, like, what? Like, what do you mean you drafted him? Like, are you kidding me?
Because you're saying 25. That like you think Ayton's a really good player.
I mean, I think he's fine. I think it shows that the Trailblazers do not, which is hilarious because they already also have Robert Williams, by the way, in case anybody forgot he was on that basketball team.
Oh, I didn't forget because we got Drew Holiday out of that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, get all these people out of here saying, "Oh, the Bucks gave away the title." He literally got traded to the Trailblazers.
Oh no, it's the Trailblazers.
Got traded,
it was without the Trailblazers. Drew Holiday's not in Boston.
No,
it's not the Bucks' fault.
Exactly. So anyway, but yeah, the Trailblazers, that's just a weird move in my mind. It just shows that multiple people are going to be on the move if they keep clinging around. Who I think could be a good player. I'm not super accustomed to college ball. I'm assuming he's not a terrible shooter. He's probably a better shooter from range compared to Aiden and Rob, probably. And so I'm guessing they see that, would be my guess. I don't know if he pairs better in that way.
I would say, I don't know. Chase knows more about the college ball, but I think he's more traditional, which is why I'm shocked he didn't drop more, honestly.
Well, now I'm just really confused. I figured he shot better. I don't even know then why they would have ever taken him.
Comparing it to Robert Williams, he probably shoots better, but Chase, what are your thoughts on Klingon?
Yeah, no, well, now I love Dan Hurley, but now I don't know what to feel about that. That's another story. But no, yeah, I feel like he's really good. Obviously very coordinated with the ball in his hands down low. but yeah, like he really didn't shoot much jumpers just because I mean, like all he literally had to do was just sit down low, and I mean, you have a freaking great guard play just feeding them all day. So maybe he does have a jumper, and like I just have not seen it yet. But like he really like didn't even have a reason to like be outside 15 feet, to be honest. Um, just because like he could just dominate in the college game down low and just rack up rebounds, and like he's really good at finishing around the rim too. So I don't know, maybe he has a jumper, and I just haven't seen it. So
Fair. But yeah, outside of that, honestly, yeah, not much to take away from this. I still hate the Miami Heat. I really wanted that guy at number 15 to drop a little bit more because I don't know why they took him. And of course, the Celtics get their white guy shooter at the 30th pick, who will someday become the next Klay Thompson. So,
Yay!
super excited about that one. And 6
Good
years.
3-point shooting. Yay! Banner 19 to
They just
DVD.
bring out these people, I swear. Cookie cutter Celtic sticker.
Dawson, what were your thoughts on the first round? Any names that stand out? I have one more, but I'll let you guys go through because I think Chase might mention this name as well.
All right. I consider myself a pretty big basketball fan. I feel like I know most of the prospects that come in to the draft. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of where certain players are going to go. I do a lot of mock drafts and stuff like that. When I tell you when the Hornets took their guy at 6 that I had never seen that dude's name pop up on a mock draft, I was genuinely baffled.
You're like Anthony Bennett. Whoa!
Yeah, I pulled a Bill Simmons. So that was just like my head scratcher. Like I didn't even know who this dude existed. We'll see. Like what's going on in Charlotte, but
what isn't going on in Charlotte? That's good.
That's a better
that's
question.
bad or questionable.
Other than that, hated the Lakers for sniping Connect for my Cavs. That was dumb, but I'm still happy with Jalen Tyson. And then, other than that, one of my favorite picks of the draft is Stephon Castle to San Antonio, especially now with Chris Paul as this mentor. We saw what he did with Shea. I don't think Castle's nearly the same player as Shea, but who knows? But yeah, I know that we're going to get ready to talk about the second round and certain people getting picked there. So,
Dawson, you just my thunder, bro. I'm so mad at you. I was going to mention Stephon Castle. Dude, that is a great pick. I freaking love the guy. I wish like he was just a little bit of a better shooter, but that guy can freaking play. I'm excited for him. I hope he can start to develop a little bit of a jumper. But yeah, I love that pick. What other ones? Brock, I absolutely love the Rob Dillingham pick too, or the not pick, just like they mentioned that. He was probably my favorite player to watch out of all college basketball last year. He's just entertaining. He can freaking put the ball in the basket. I think he fits perfectly with Minnesota, like you mentioned. You hit that spot on. I was a little confused. Like, there's a lot of bigs that went early. I thought that they were just going to maybe go by later. But yeah, and I know I mentioned it earlier. I love the Jared McCain pick for the Sixers there. I was kind of bummed, but also when you get Dog Connect, not complaining. And then last but not least, got to give a shout out. Weber State legend Dylan Jones going at 26. Got to throw that in there. Love the little small conference talk. So shout out Dylan Jones. But that's all I got.
Also wanted to point out Isaiah Collier, I think is someone I think raw talent wise could potentially be a huge steal. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like coming out of high school, a lot of people had him as a potential next star. Maybe didn't have the college career as he expected, but that happens. I think if the situation is right, he can develop and become a really good player. I watched him in the summer league last night versus actually Zach Edey's Grizzlies. By the way, the Elam ending being in summer league is one of the greatest things ever when it comes to overtime. I don't know if I want that in the actual like regular season or postseason wise, but I do like it in the summer league. He had some great moves, a decent performance. I actually enjoyed watching him play. Dalton Connect to the Lakers, I think, is going to be another one that people are going to be talking a lot about, especially with the new head coach, JJ Redick, coming in. I mean, JJ is literally the definition of catch and shoot 3-point guy. And if you want someone to be able to create an offense that needs a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. Dalton Connect, JJ Redick. That's a marriage made in heaven, man. And yeah, shout out the Celtics for getting another 3-point shooter that will somehow terrorize the NBA in a couple years. All right. Any other year, there's a good chance that we're not talking about the second round. But here we are. And the most obvious pick in NBA history, like the most obvious pick in NBA history, 55, the Lakers take Bronny James. I mean, I don't really have an opinion, honestly. It's the second round. That's where you're supposed to take chances on people anyways. So I'm going to open the floor. Anybody want to jump on the Bronny James pick? Or if you guys have another mention in the second round that you guys want to talk about, feel free to add that as well.
I think the second round in general was just kind of interesting. Most notably besides LeBron, the story around Kyle Filipowski dropping for some very, very odd reasons.
We don't need to get into that.
Still don't understand. Yeah, that very odd situation considering where he was once at in some mock drafts. I am a Jamal Sheed lover. Love that guy. I think obviously a little undersized, but reminds me honestly a lot of like Javon Carter. Could definitely cook in some places, but you're always going to see him go hard on the defensive end. But yeah, I think then with Bronny, I don't know, man. Like, I don't hate it. I think like
again, I'm not against it either.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like it's cool, like to see a dad and his kid on the same team, and like even just being in the league at the same time in general is insane to think about. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be the most talked about second round pick almost ever. Unfortunately for IT. But yeah, I think overall,
Nikola Jokic.
No, we're not talking about that guy. We're not talking about that guy. I did think it was funny. He outlasted the whatever the heck the Taco Bell commercial going on. That item does not exist anymore. But Nikola Jokic does. So that's
by the way, how many, like, I don't know how people were able to produce 18-year-olds named Nikola after Jokic won an NBA title already. It seems like every year there's been like 2 or 3 of them getting drafted in an NBA. Dawson, what are your thoughts? Honestly, out of this podcast, Dawson is probably the biggest LeBron James fan that on here. And that's not even trying to like jab at him, the fact that he followed him to Miami and then followed him back to Cleveland or anything. Right. But he's I will give him his flowers. He never doubted LeBron, thought LeBron was the GOAT from the start. And so what are your thoughts on Bronny and LeBron teaming up together?
First, I'm going to say what my favorite pick was in the second round other than the Bronny pick. Johnny Furphy, going to Indiana. Love that pick. And then my second favorite pick was the Tyler Collect. I think he's going to the Knicks, not the Blazers on this.
Yep.
He's going to be a great backup point guard for them with Miles McBride. But the Bronny James thing, I don't know why people are so up in arms about it. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. We see so many times that the second round teams take draft and stash guys that never come over. So again, I don't get why people are so upset. I see why people think there's like nepotism, but like there's nepotism in every sport, I feel like.
Yeah, you're a Hawk fan. Just start talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian Ferentz had his job one too many years long. Maybe too many years, but I have no feeling about it. I mean, it would be cool if we could see him on the same court. I'm sure it'll happen at some point this season. But yeah, it doesn't really bother me either way. I just don't see why people are getting so worked up about it.
Plus, let's also I don't know how talked about this has been. Let's also take off our basketball brain hat. I wish I had a different hat to actually put on. That would be kind of fun. Let's take off our basketball brain hat and put on our business brain hat. You have one of the most not only like important or culturally significant or just very important figure in LeBron James on your basketball team, and his kid enters the league. How much money do you think you're gonna make in a lifetime from like just a 55th overall pick ever? And now all of a sudden you have bands on bands coming in because you just drafted this kid. It doesn't even matter if he plays a second. His jersey is gonna sell for so much money, whether or not he does anything. I hope he does. Like in my basketball brain hat, I hope he does great. But like business perspective, fantastic draft pick. Fantastic draft pick.
Put the business hat on. I think the Celtics should have taken him, man.
You know what? No, they shouldn't have, actually.
We have your kid.
It'll cost you LeBron James and a first overall pick.
All right, Lakers fan, sound off on Bronny James officially going to LA.
Right. Yeah. No, I really, honestly, I don't have a whole lot, man. I think it's cool. Yeah, like I just don't really think he'll play a whole lot. But yeah, I really honestly don't have a whole lot of thoughts on the situation. I was just kind of like in my college basketball fields, to be honest, Brock. Because Hunter kind of stole my thunder, Jamal Shed. And Hunter's also going to hate me for mentioning this, but I really love the Tristan Newton pick from the Pacers. I know Hunter's really mad, but Tristan Newton, I think he could do some stuff next year. I think he was a great player in college. I don't think we talk about enough. I think some of those like 4-year guys in college, like I think some of them can actually like make like a pretty significant impact on the NBA, like in the first couple of years. So, and I hopefully for Hunter's sake, he doesn't do too much, but I like the pick at 49. I think it was 49 there for Tristan Newton. So I wanted to throw that one in there as well.
Yeah, and everybody knows I'm not necessarily the biggest Lakers fan or the biggest LeBron fan in the world. But I mean, if he's going to be in the league, I would rather him be on the team with his dad than be in the league on a different team. I just feel like it would be weird. I mean, like we mentioned, when's the next time we're probably ever going to see this? Probably never. And if it pans out to be nothing, who cares? Like, it's not gonna, like, Bronny will be fine if he doesn't pan out to be an NBA All-Star. LeBron will be fine if his son doesn't pan out to be an All-Star. I'm gonna enjoy to see where this goes. I will say, like, drama-wise, I am looking forward to seeing like the JJ Redick first year as a head coach with LeBron and his kid on the team kind of situation. Not that that would lead to like controversial situations, but I think it'll be interesting stuff and interesting talk conversations to have on, podcasts and TV. But yeah, I mean, overall, this offseason hasn't been necessarily mind blowing or anything amazing happening when it comes to like shocking news that we've seen. But before we sign off, I want everybody to pick a winner in their opinion of this offseason so far. And you can give a reason, or you can just pick a team and leave it at that. But yeah, anybody want to, jump the gun and go first?
All right, I'll go. I'll get mine out of the way. Winner, the Thunder. The fact that they were able to get Caruso and get Josh Giddey out of town, I think is a home run move. I get that some Bulls fans are saying, "Oh, Josh Giddey's still got a ton of potential," but the Thunder added an impact player that can help their chances right away, and they added Hartenstein. I think it was an overpay. I don't think he's worth $27 or $28 million a year like he's getting paid, but I think he just adds more center depth that the Thunder really needed last postseason against the Mavs, because Mavs were able to roll out Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford and really control the glass. The loser, I was going to say the Clippers, but I kind of like that the Clippers got out of the Paul George contract. I don't know. A loser's kind of tough. Maybe Miami. Miami really hasn't done that much. And I feel like Miami's at the point now where they're going to have a tough decision with Jimmy Butler coming up next year, if he's going to be on the team long term, or what they're going to do. I know they're kind of tied up cap space wise. So I'd probably have to say Miami.
Yeah. Gosh, now I'm kind of on the spot here. I would say I'll start with my loser first because I love bashing the team. Loser is the Denver Nuggets. That's what I'm gonna go with. The winner, I like the Thunder, Dawson. That's good. I'm trying to think right now. Honestly, maybe I'll take a different route here and try to spice it up. I might say winner is Celtics for signing Luke Cornett. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. 3-point closeout king.
No, yeah. I don't know. I would say maybe I don't. This is tough. Maybe I'll just go Mavs just because I think Najee Marshall. I don't know why. I'm on like Mavs Twitter now. By the way, like I'm seeing so many tweets from the Mavs. Like it's ridiculous. I don't know if it's because I'm a Cowboys fan and like I'm seeing all the Dallas stuff or what, but I'd probably go. I think Najee Marshall's pretty exciting, and obviously Clay. So maybe I'll just go Mavs the winner.
Yeah, I think for now, I think I would also have to agree with the Mavs. I think they've made the correct choices in how to address how they can up their game. Ultimately, they were able to see what the need was, and so far, the moves they have done have met that need and addressing it. Obviously, there's still a little bit of free agency left, and we'll kind of see what else they do. But yeah, I think overall by not losing that much and bringing in what they have has been really good. If I were to pick a loser, I'm gonna pick a couple losers. Number one, the Detroit Pistons. I don't know what the correct move would be with Monty Williams. You obviously have to get rid of him for doing the things that he did to that basketball court in the city of Detroit. But holy cow, to have him be the highest paid, then just after a year be like, yeah, you're out of here is absolutely wild to me. Like I said, I don't know if it was the right choice or the wrong choice. It's probably the right one, but it is crazy to me to think of all that money that's just being wasted now. And then they drafted Ron Holland, which don't get me wrong, I like Ron Holland. He was my first overall pick for a little bit there. The man does not shoot the basketball well. And do you want to know what this team needs, especially after getting Tobias Harris, a man who can shoot the basketball well? Now they have brought in Tim Hardaway Jr., who we all know is a tremendous shooter when it matters the most. And they also got my boy Malik Beasley, who, he does well in the front half of regular season. And so that helps out, but just like overall, they also today officially pen to paper gave Cade a supermax, which, he probably earned it being in Detroit. I'll be honest here. He's a good basketball player. I praised him before. I don't know if he gets a supermax extension from most other teams in the league at this given moment, to be honest. Which I think that's a fair debate to say either way. But that would probably be my loser besides literally the Heat and the Nuggets. Thank goodness they are in that loser section. But
my loser, I think Miami is the team that comes to mind right away. I will say they might be a loser, but it might be for the best, is kind of Chicago falling apart as well. Similar to the Clippers, I feel like it's got to get worse before it gets better for them, and who knows how long it's going to be. I do believe Chicago being good at basketball is good for the NBA, and being able to have them become a powerhouse in the East would be so nice. A winner, I kind of have two, but like one will be like a long-term kind of winner situation is the San Antonio Spurs, because they did sign a bunch of veteran leaders and Chris Paul, and I think Harrison Barnes is a good asset that I feel like long-term these two could have huge impacts on the young rookies and the young player in Wemby and their futures in the long term. And who knows if that will actually lead to something. Now, actual winner, when it means like right now, I think that Jaden McDaniels and like the fact that they didn't have to give up Jaden McDaniels in the trade for Rob Dillingham is a huge thing, in my opinion, just because of how big of an asset that he was for the Timberwolves in that run. So I'm actually going to give the winner to Minnesota, in my opinion, for this offseason and what they've done. I mean, I think it sounds like they're signing Joe Ingles, or they have signed Joe Ingles to a contract. Is he amazing? No, but he's one of those guys where you're like, how is he playing in the NBA? And then he puts up 15 on you, and you're just like, what is going on? So he's a guy that doesn't need to do anything for this team, but yet will find a way to do something at some point that will make a bunch of NBA fans of that opposing team very upset. So I know Dawson was high on the Timberwolves to start this season. I am hopping on the bandwagon right now, and they're one of my favorites to come out of the Western Conference right now. Nice meme, Hunter. Hunter just sent a meme in the group chat. We might show that next episode. I don't have time to convert it over to show everybody on the stream. But any other final comments or questions from anybody involving the NBA offseason, or questions you want to just propose in general?
I'll make a statement.
Yeah, go
CJ
ahead.
McCollum is ruining the game of basketball as we know it because of his stupid CBA policies as president. But that's a whole conversation that will take 3 hours to explain.
Isn't his like right-hand man Grant Williams?
Yes, it is, Brock. It is Grant Williams.
I love that Grant Williams is still finding ways to ruin your life, Hunter.
It's terrible, man. Jaylen Brown's in there too. He's not the right-hand man, but he's in that conversation.
Hey, he helped him.
It did help him.
But any other comments or things you guys want to throw out?
I could say I was officially wrong 7 months ago when we did a podcast. I remember very vividly and truly believing that Donovan Mitchell was gone. So as a Cavs fan, it's good that he's back. And who
At
knows
least
what
you
the
have
hell?
something.
Yeah, who knows what the hell they do with the
They
core four, and
do.
who knows if Kenny Atkinson is a good coach. That's my last thought.
Chase, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna throw out a hot take, and I'm gonna get absolutely blasted for it. But I'm gonna drop a bomb and run. And Hunter's gonna hate me, but I kind of like, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Zach Edey does. Okay, see ya. I'm running. I think it's gonna be interesting. That's my hot take. We'll see how it turns out. See ya.
Well, looks like Hunter has exited.
He's gone.
And I mean, since he doesn't have his headset on, I'm not totally against that.
All right.
I think him and Ja will be a good combo. And I'm going to stop praising Zach Edey because Hunter is putting his headset back on. So, yeah, Hunter, you got any opinions on that you want to say before?
The only thing I liked about Zach Edey's pick was John Moran's post on his Instagram story, and that is the only positive that will come from Zach Edey being in the city of Memphis.
Yeah, that was definitely great. But that's it for us this week on the Hardwood Convos. We'll try to get more consistent on posting a podcast every week or every other week, depending on the situation. Make sure to follow us on Facebook again. We are, again, 4 followers away from being able to stream back on Facebook due to the new rules by Meta and Facebook. But if you're watching us on Twitter, thank you for watching us on Twitter or YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. Follow us anywhere on social media or wherever you get your podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Leave a review as well, or leave a comment. Ask questions or suggestions that you guys want us to talk about on these shows, because we're all about, open conversations. I know when we did the trade deadline live stream, there were some great comments mentioned about Trae Young potentially going to San Antonio, and we ended up going on a tangent about that. Did that lead to anything? Not really, because Trae Young is still in Atlanta. And that's a conversation for a different episode. But it's great when we get comments and interactions from people. So thank you to everybody that's watching live currently on YouTube or Twitter, or listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud. So for Chase Winterbourne, Hunter Rose, Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman, and this is the Hardwood Convos, and we will all see you in the near future.